A long time ago, in a kingdom surrounded by mountains of clouds and gardens that danced with the wind, a princess called Aurora was born. His name was chosen because at birth, the sky was pink like dawn. The kings had a big party. All were invited: wise, artists, cooks, and even the guardian fairies of time, minus one. The fairy Morvella, which lived in the northern shadows, was not called. Sent and angry, she appeared anyway. With cold eyes and firm voice, he threw a curse. The day the princess touches a needle, she will fall into a deep sleep, and will only wake up when time wants. Everyone was silent. One of the fairy present, called Clara, full of light, softened the curse. She will sleep, yes, but not forever, and it won't be the kiss that will wake up, but the memory of who she is. In fear, the king had all the needles of the kingdom destroyed, but time has passed. Aurora grew, cheerful, curious, and passionate about stars, until, in a forgotten corner of the castle, he found an old lady spinning wool. Delighted with the shine of the needle, Aurora touched her and fell asleep. The castle stopped. Time gathered. Flowers closed. The winds silenced. The kingdom slept with her. But what no one knew was that, even sleeping, Aurora dreamed. She saw gardens that never existed, heard songs not yet written, missed something she didn't remember. Outside, the world forgot the sleeping castle, until one day, a girl named Lina, daughter of simple farmers, heard a story told by her grandfather. They say there is a princess sleeping in a hidden castle, hoping to remember herself. Lina left with a flashlight made of fireflies and a heart full of courage. She crossed forests, jumped streams, and found the castle hidden under the clouds. Inside, he found Aurora lying down. But when she saw the princess's face, she didn't want to wake her up with a kiss. I wanted to tell her a story. Lina spoke about the outside world, about the sky, about trees that dance with the wind, and how hope still lived. Aurora, listening to everything in a dream, smiled. For the first time, I knew who it was, and when remembering, woke up. The winds ran again, the sun shone like never before, and the castle woke up with his princess. Aurora thanked Lina with a hug that didn't need words. It was her voice that reminded me of mine, she said, and the girl who brought the world back. The castle had awakened. The halls filled with music. The gardens bloomed as if they had expected 1,000 years for that day. And the sky seemed to smile. Aurora walked slowly through the castle corridors. Everything was familiar, but also new. People hugged her, celebrated, spoke of destination and miracle. But something inside her was still quiet. In the highest tower, where she had slept for so long, she sat next to Lina. Everyone thinks I'm a princess for waking up. But what if I still don't know who I want to be? Lina smiled and answered simply, "You spent years dreaming. Now it's time to choose what to do with everything you imagined." Inspired, Aurora decided that she didn't just want to reign. "I wanted to know the kingdom with your own feet." So she and Lina put boots on her feet, bows in her hair, and left, not in golden carriages, but walking from village to village, woods to woods. Met a carpenter who made toys for children who had lost laughter, a woman who planted trees for each person who said goodbye to sadness, a boy who wrote poems in the air with colorful kites. With each place, Aurora wrote down everything in a notebook he called the Diary of Awakening. One day, they rediscovered the old, now older fairy, but still with eyes that looked like lighted lanterns. She said, "Sleep taught you patience, but it was your listening that woke up the world." Back in the castle, Aurora proposed something new, a festival where everyone would tell a dream that was almost forgotten and would turn it into action. On the day of the festival, people created songs, paintings, recipes, dances, hugs, books, all inspired by something that slept inside them. Aurora took the stage and said, "I'm a dawn, daughter of silence and memory. I woke up because a girl believed I could remember who it was. Now it's my turn to remind you. Never let your dreams fall asleep for a long time." Lina, next to her, held the notebook full of stories. In that kingdom, there was no more talk about a curse. It was spoken in possibility, and Aurora did not go back to sleep, because now she knew that living was the most beautiful dream of all, especially when you live awake inside. After the festival, the kingdom flourished again. Everyone was awake, but Aurora knew that not everyone wakes up on the outside and inside at the same time. She realized that there were people who kept walking, working, smiling, but with empty eyes. "They are awake, but still dormant," said Aurora one night, looking at the stars. Lina replied, "Perhaps there is a deeper sleep than tales, the sleep of hope that goes out slowly." And so, the two decided to leave again, now, towards the most forgotten villages of the map, those no one else visited, where time seemed to walk slowly, and the smiles were dusty. They arrived at a place called Valley of the Grey Hours. There, no one dreamed more, no one told stories, and all the watches marked the same time, the moment they gave up. Aurora felt a tightness in her chest. What if not all people want to wake up? But Lina, with her eyes full of the world, replied, "We don't have to force anyone. Just remember them that time can start over." Together they created something new, a tent of restarts. There, anyone could come in and write what they would like to live, even late, even if it was small, even if it was difficult. At first, no one appeared, but on the third day, a lady came in and said, "I wish I had learned to play flute. I never thought it was the time." Aurora smiled. "It's still." Soon after, a shy boy came in. "I wanted to play again as before, without shame." And so, the tent filled with leaves, scribbles, desires, and shy voices that spoke again. Aurora understood there that the most important awakening was not hers. It was that of others. Not because she was a princess, not because I had slept a century, but because he had learned to listen without haste, to hug without demanding, and to illuminate without shining alone. When they returned to the castle, there was more light in the windows, not of magic, but of presence. And Aurora went up to the tower one last time, now not to sleep, but to write her last page in the notebook. "I woke up. I grew up. I shared. Now I know that life doesn't start when your eyes opens, but when you choose to see the other with a whole heart." Aurora was now known in every corner of the kingdom, not as the princess who slept, but as the one who heard with the heart. And even after all that she lived, she felt that there were stories waiting to be born where no one still had the courage to tell. One morning, as he took care of a garden with Lina, he saw a girl standing in the distance, looking at the trees with empty eyes. The girl didn't speak. He carried a closed notebook, without a single word. Aurora approached carefully. "Is this notebook yours?" The girl shook her head. "Why is it empty?" The girl answered with her eyes, "Because I never heard a story that looked with me." It was at that moment that Aurora knew what she would do from there. She would create the first school of living stories. It would not be a school with books ready, no ready answers. It would be a place where each child would create their own legend, their own fable, their own start. Aurora and Lina traveled from village to village with a wagon full of blank leaves, pencils, paints, cloths, instruments, and seeds, and at each stop they said, "Anyone who wants to tell what they feel, even if you don't know how, can come," and came. Children who did not speak but drew, others who wrote with their feet, others who just wanted to hear for now, and even adults who had swallowed their stories for fear of seeming weak. Aurora heard all, and with each story, he planted a different flower in the garden of the first words. People began to understand. There is no small history. There is history that has not yet been told. Years passed. Aurora did not reign in thrones. She would rather sit in circles. Lina became the first guardian of forgotten voices, and that girl from the empty notebook? He became a writer of books that helped other children see themselves. One day, someone asked Aurora, "Why do you still travel, even after so long?" She replied, "Because there is still someone somewhere who believes your story doesn't matter, and I want to be the first to listen to it." The school of living stories grew. Children of all corners arrived, bringing their words, fears, and even sparkles. Aurora smiled, walking between written leaves and voices that now flourished. But in his heart, a strange feeling began to emerge, a soft absence, as if something was being told, something of herself. One night, sitting next to the fire with Lina, Aurora confessed, "I've helped so many people find their voices, but I realized that I never wrote my own story. I only lived within the stories of others." Lina, with her usual calm, replied, "Maybe now is the time to stop donating just light and being a flame again." The next morning, Aurora left alone. It took only one blank notebook, and followed without haste, not for castles or villages, but to the top of the mountain of the golden mist, where the sky kisses the earth and the world seems to hear. There, the wind didn't ask, he just welcomed. Aurora sat down, took a deep breath, and for the first time wrote her own story. Not that of the princess who slept, nor the one that woke up, but of the girl who, even afraid of not being enough, chose to listen, serve, and sew. She wrote about the day she wanted to escape, about the moment when he felt invisible, and when he realized that helping others did not mean forgetting himself. With the last word written, the notebook shone smoothly, and Aurora understood. Her mission was not eternal, but your legacy, yes. She went down the mountain and handed the notebook to the school, and asked, "May every new child who arrive can read one piece and write another one." The living school of storytelling now would have an endless book, made of voices, fears, discoveries, and restarts. Aurora spent the following days in silence, not out of tiredness, but for gratitude. She planted one last flower in the garden of the first words, and whispered, "I existed, and that was more than enough." They say that sometimes, on calmer nights, a light breeze enters the children's rooms, and that if you pay close attention, you will hear a sweet voice saying, "Your story matters, and the world doesn't know yet the best of you." Maybe it's just the wind, or maybe it's Aurora, going to remember that every story begins like this, with someone who believes.